Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well under these circumstances. Today, I'm giving my presentation on structuralism in Moana. So when we're looking at structuralism, we have to look at literary works as a whole, and in this case, it's not a literary work, it's a movie. And so the best way to look at similar works would be to look at all Disney princess movies. And when we think of Disney princess movies, we have an immediate idea of what should be included in a Disney princess movie. And in Moana, Maui himself, the demigod, says when rebutting Moana about not being a princess, he says, "Of course you're a princess. You wear a dress and you have an animal sidekick." And so even Disney pokes fun at the idea that no matter what princess it is, there will always be some conventions that we will find that give us an understanding of meaning. We understand that the person in the movie that's wearing a dress and has an animal sidekick is the princess. And along with that, in every Disney princess, you'll find the princess who's young, beautiful, kind, and that spans through all of the ages. You can go to 1950 when Cinderella came out and she had all of those characteristics. You can come to Frozen 2, which just came out recently, and those princesses still have those characteristics. Other characteristics they have, there's usually a rule in place that they cannot break. That might be not going to the ball until all of the work is done and they have something proper to wear. It might be you can only kiss a frog and turn him into a prince if you yourself are a princess. It might be you can't leave the tower. And in Moana's case, it's that she can't go past the reef. And there's this rule in place, and it causes a lot of the contention in the movie because it's their desire. It's what they really, really want to do. Other things might include an old woman being a mentor for the princess, the fairy godmother for Cinderella. Often there's a grandmother who is acting as a mentor in the case of Moana. And so there's just all of these conventions that we recognize in these movies that pertain to our understanding of a princess. And that can't necessarily be placed on other princesses. If we look at real-life princesses like Princess Diana, she doesn't have a rule. She has rules, but she doesn't have this one certain rule that she can't break in order to fulfill her life's dream. She's just living her life as a real princess. And so when we look in this context, we find meaning because we understand that every Disney princess movie will have a Disney princess, will have a sidekick for comedic relief, and will have some form of villain. Now, the interesting thing is, in Moana, some of these structures are very different than original Disney princess movies, and we look at them and we think maybe Moana isn't following the structure. Moana doesn't have a love interest. She's just going off by herself. She is breaking a rule because it's her own desire. It's not because she has to meet a man that way. It's not because she can't help herself. It's because she has this yearning inside of her to go and experience the world and learn more. And she's finally able to come to terms with breaking that rule when it means helping her people. And so that quest isn't just about other people. It's also about being allowed to fulfill your own desires. And there's just all these different little things that seem like they don't fit the Disney princess structure. But when we look at it, we see that structure changes. So if we're looking at Disney princesses as a whole, it doesn't really fit that. But if we put it in context of time period, we will notice that since 2012, when Brave came out and Princess Merida was established, she didn't have a love interest. In Frozen 1 and 2, there are love interests, but one of them ends up being the villain, and the other is not the main storyline. He's just a side character in the adventure of the princess. And when we look at it in this context, we are able to understand that the structure of these movies are influenced by the structure of society. Back in the early and mid, even to late 1900s, women were seen as needing saving, needing protection, needing a man. And as society changes, so does our literary entertainment structure. So there's this meaning change that when we hear a princess, instead of it being a damsel in distress that needs a hero, we hear princess equals hero. Princess saves herself. Princess might need help from other people. She needed help from a demigod in Moana, but it wasn't that she had to be saved. It was that she was doing the saving, because princesses in and of themselves are capable people. And so we have this innate meaning of strength and ability and still kindness, still young, still beautiful, but overwhelmingly capable, bright, intelligent people. And that illustrates how we put meaning into our children. Before, princesses, little girls, when I was a little girl even, the princesses I saw were being saved by men. And so I had this vision of I had to be saved by a man. And now these young girls and boys who are watching princess movies have this understanding that women themselves are strong and capable people who don't need a man, can have a man, but don't need a man to be happy and capable and smart. So what does that mean in terms of so as we look at princess movies and Moana's not the only character. Of course, it's a movie about her. The title itself is Moana, so it's about her. But there's other characters. There's her parents. There's Maui, the demigod. There's her comedic relief animals, Hey. And there's also the villain. Now, when we look at the structure of Disney princess movies, we know something that hasn't changed is comedic relief animals. We like the animals because they are important to the storyline, because they bring in that comedy and something to laugh at for children who are experiencing these serious things in safe places. But nothing really changes with them. You can expect it in every single movie. In Cinderella, there's the mice. In Rapunzel, there's the chameleon. In Mulan, there's the dragon. In Moana, there's Hey the chicken, and there's also the little pig who's in it less, but still provides some of that comedic relief. And I remember when I hadn't seen Moana for a long time after it came out. I was late on jumping on that bandwagon. But I remember hearing Maui, and I was like, that's so weird that her love interest is this big old demigod that would be like a really weird matchup. Because my instant thought was structure means she's going to have a love interest. And as I watched the movie, I realized that it wasn't a love interest, but it was a role played and filled by a man, because men also have an important role in Disney princess movies. And throughout the duration of the movie, there's this idea that Maui has to save Moana and her people, and it shifts to Moana is going to work together with Maui in order to save her people, because she also has a lot to offer. Whereas before, princesses were put in very vulnerable and incapable positions. Snow White and Sleeping Beauty were in positions where they could not help themselves. They had to have a man come and kiss them to save them. Whereas now it's showing teamwork, and that while they might not have identical roles, they will have equal and complementary roles. And also, and you can see that in other Disney movies, such as the Frozen movies. But one thing that is quite unique to Moana is the use of no supreme villain. Villains in the previous structure show, and in, quite honestly, the still conventional structure, show villains as the bad guy. There's only one villain, they are supreme over all, and they are just causing all these problems. But in Moana, they face many obstacles, because that's what more and more people are experiencing in life. They experience the coconut pirates, they experience the snail, and in the last trial, they are against this lava monster who turns out to be a peaceful god in the end. It just shows that we have to be caring and loving, and when we take the time to recognize and appreciate people, we'll be surprised by how much they can help us. And so that is my take on structuralism in Moana.